Daisy, can I have my toothpick back? Thank you. So the ladders we're going to make today are mostly made of sprue, which is this gray plastic magic material that you get with just about every Warhammer purchase you make. It's got these long straight sections. Just pick one that's about the same length as you want your ladder to be high. You're also going to want to shave off all these little nubby bits and excessive sprue and all these little things so that you get a smooth surface. Just sand them off, cut them off, shave them off. That's really boring to watch, so here's a couple that I prepared earlier. Just a simple length of sprue, 6-7 inches long. I've shaved off the text that says Games Workshop, sprue numbers, and the dates and all that, just to make them a bit more palatable for our purposes. Now the bottom, they've got a large side and a small side. Sort of trapezoid shape going on. So the long side is about 3 millimeters, the top side is about 2 millimeters. I'm going to keep my same ratio usually. Build the ladder about 1 inch wide, rungs every 1/2 inch. Now with the skinny side being only about 2 millimeters, that's also right about the width of our rungs, which in this case is going to be toothpicks. So what that means is we're going to have to cut it really close. That also means it's going to fit together really well. So what we're going to do is get the safety block of safety, just so we don't injure ourselves on camera. Hold the sprue in place with your thumb. And just to make sure we're getting kind of center mass when we do our marks here, I'm going to use a toothpick. And you can see here it's just about as wide as the sprue is. So just hold that toothpick in place with your thumb, and where the point is, that's right about where you want to make your divot. So get your X-Acto knife, and very carefully, without injuring yourself, line up the toothpick, and make yourself a little mark right there. You're not trying to dig in real deep, just enough of a mark so that when you go to use the drill bit has something to settle into, sort of a guide. Just kind of wiggle the knife back and forth. Again, not a whole lot of pressure. Can't really see the divot here on camera, but I assure you it's there. Just a tiny little dot. So that done, we're going to go and measure back on our board here with our 1/2 inch marks. We're going to go and figure out where the rest of the rungs are going to be. You want one divot about every 1/2 inch. We're just going to use a toothpick every time. This, again, is really boring to watch, so we're going to go and skip ahead here in a second, and I'll catch you up after I finish this one. Alright, so a little bit of time has passed. I've now made a divot on this one, not on the other one. You want to leave that one smooth for right now. The divot about every 1/2 inch, so we're going to take our pin vise and our drill bit. This drill bit is right about 2 millimeters, which is just slightly larger than our toothpick is. We're going to do that deliberately so we don't have to force the toothpick into the rungs later on. And all we're going to do is all these little divots you made, you can kind of see where the plastic is pale on camera, put them on the safety block of safety, and we're going to gently drill through the sprue as straight through as we can and into the block. And we use some firm pressure, but don't get carried away here because the sprue, it's a good material, but it is really flimsy at times. It does tend to bend and break pretty easily. If you're not dead center, what you may end up with is where it will snap on one side. That's perfectly fine. We're going to be filling this hole with a toothpick and gluing it back into place anyways, so just try not to let it snap off entirely. You're going to feel resistance once you reach the safety block. Get some of those little plastic shred bits out of there. And we're doing alright, making good progress. This first rung is a little bit off center, which again is fine. It just means that once we come through, we're just gonna have to re-glue it with the toothpick later on. So getting firm pressure, you can see it flex a little bit. We break through here on the left, just slightly. Again, your drill bit is about as wide as one layer of the sprue is, so that's gonna happen periodically. Don't worry about it. Actual ladders aren't perfect, you're not perfect, your ladder doesn't need to be perfect either. Just shave off the excess bits And when we go to glue the toothpicks back into place, you just straighten it back in. No harm, no foul, no stabbed fingers. Once that's done, we're going to repeat the process with all of the divots. Going to come right back, and there, hey, look, it's done. Power of editing. So you can see now we've got a clean hole about 2 millimeters through each of the rungs. They're not all lined up perfectly. That is just fine. Barely noticeable once you get to the actual ladder assembled. What's more important is that they match. The holes on one sprue match with the holes in the other sprue. So to get that effect, remember we haven't made any marks on the second sprue yet. We're just going to take them, mash them together, make sure the ends line up as best we can, and we'll gently drill through the hole we made just to make a divot on the other side. Safety block to safety again, and take your time getting these set up. This is the part where you really want to take your time on the project, because if these holes for the rungs are off center, you're going to get weird rungs coming in at different angles and all that kind of stuff, which is great if you're doing sort of a ramshackle orcish look. But for the most part, at least for this project, we're really not going for that. So we're just going to put the drill through the hole that we made, give it a few experimental turns. Remember, we're just creating a divot at this point. You don't want to try to drill all the way through or you're going to snap the sprue that you already made. And there we go, neat little divot there. We're going to repeat this process all the way down with each of the rungs. Magic of editing, ta-da. So there we go. Nice clean holes through both sprue. You can see they're obviously not dead center down the middle. Don't really care. The important thing is, again, that they match up. There you go. That's going to give us a nice level ladder. That probably meets some sort of OSHA safety requirement, but I really don't care. So we're going to come back, we get some wood glue. I mentioned wood glue, I love it. It gels very quickly, it sets. You can put a little bit here on the safety block, just because it's a handy surface. And with the toothpick, we're just going to gather up a little drop of the wood glue, and we're going to put it inside of the sprue. Don't try to fill the whole gap with it. There's really no point to that. What you're trying to do here is just to coat the inside of that hole that you drilled with wood glue. So once we get to put the rungs in, they're going to sit neatly on that. We're just going to accelerate this real quick. Man, I am so much more efficient when I fast forward. Look at that. Alright, now that we've pretty much got them all filled up, remember that you don't want to fill the entire gap. You just want enough so that the toothpick is going to anchor itself on the glue. And we're going to pick them up. We're going to try not to make a mess, but you know, there's glue everywhere, so just be careful with yourself. When you keep them, then we're going to set up a ladder, like I said, about 1 inch wide. So the toothpick, you're going to gently put it through the hole. You're going to roll it just slightly so it gets a good mixture of glue all over it. And same with the other side. Remember, we took a lot of trouble to make sure that these holes are paired up correctly. So it should look pretty even once you get it going. There we go. The wood glue does gel and set pretty quickly. So once you actually have it set up, the ladder should hold together quite well. And with each toothpick, just slide it in. This again is why we used a 2mm drill, slightly bigger than toothpicks, so you don't have to force anything. Put them in there, get plenty of overhang out of each side, the big spike to the left and right. Alright, and there we go, pretty centered. Time shall pass. But first we're going to throw it on this piece of paper, just in case the wood glue leaks while I'm out. Perfect. So we come back, the glue is dry. You can pick it up, it is quite solid, quite sturdy. All we need to do now is get rid of those really annoying spikes. I guess if you're doing an orc thing, once again you can leave these spikes. Otherwise I'm going to get out the spinny whirly dervish and we're going to cut some of these off. As before, we're going to do it really carefully. You don't want to put a whole lot of pressure. You don't want to put barely any pressure on the actual toothpick. A, because it might snap and dig into your finger. But also because at this point the sprue is relatively flimsy since we've cut off all the supporting parts of it. So if you push too hard, you're going to bend or break the sprue itself. So really just rest the cutting edge of the spinny whirly dervish on the toothpick and just kind of hold it there for a second and just let the spinning action do the cutting for you. Don't push down a whole lot. Don't try to tear it off or break it off. You're gonna break your project. So all the way down one side, all the way down the other side. So far so good, no injuries, good. Perfect. And as I mentioned in the last video, hang on to those little spiky bits because they're really handy on any project on which you need spiky bits. That's our ladder for the most part. We got little stubs of splinter there at the end, so we're just gonna sand it just real quick to kind of get those splinters down. I like to leave a little bit of the toothpick sticking through just to make it look kind of like a rivet or some sort of metal support rod. And that's your ladder. Really not much more to it. It's pretty simple, straightforward. You got most of the supplies already. We're gonna throw some rules at you here in a second, just some optional rules you might be able to use in your game. Otherwise, have fun making these and stay crafty.